Hey kids, welcome to Rob's Red Hotspot, and a very cool video we're going to do today. I'm here with Peter from Solid Content, who is an awesome YouTuber who does, I guess, some city builder games and some sort of builder games in general. This is part 2 of a 2-part series that we're doing, so I'll post a link to the part 1 on Solid Content's YouTube channel. And also just a link to his channel. You should definitely head over there and subscribe if you like my content. I think you're gonna like his content and vice versa and all that. But yeah, welcome to Honestville, Peter. Welcome to Honestville.
Oh man!
And welcome to Rob's Red
part
Hotspot.
1. Yeah, well, thanks for welcoming me. In part 1, we were building I started from scratch. It was a very tiny town, like on an island, and right now I am looking at, first of all, the big takeaways are you are rich.
Well, yeah, no, my mod setup just makes money management kind of a non-issue.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and I can talk about why at some points, but basically it's
this is looking great.
Yeah, I've got these. These are all mods. We talked a bit about mods in the last video, and this is from the Network Out on mod. This is a station. I think it's in Chicago. It's based on an elevated train line station in Chicago.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So anyway, I guess in the other video we talked a lot about you were playing City Skylines, whereas here we're in SimCity 4, and this is my favorite city builder game. This is my favorite city builder game, and as I mentioned before, I don't want to say that I prefer it to City Skylines, only because it wouldn't be fair to, because I haven't played enough of that game to give it a solid. I only have like 100 hours in City Skylines. Funny story, but I just have never gotten around to learning it and everything like that. But it sounds like you're pretty familiar with SimCity 4.
Oh man, I kind of grew up on SimCity 4, and I would still call this one of, if not, I mean, maybe the best game ever. Is such a subjective thing to say.
Yeah.
But like, this is definitely one of my, if not my top game. Let's say you get sent to a desert island or like a sealed-in room where you can have one game. I still think I might go back to SimCity 4. Don't get me wrong, I love City Skylines, but even just like watching what you're looking at right now, like looking at your downtown core, looking at this train line, or raised metro, I guess you'd call it, is like, I'm getting some emotions coming back. I totally forgot about how beautiful this game was. And in part 1, you were talking about one of the things you like is representation of scale. In this game. One of the things I like is aesthetic layout, is design, is sort of freeform, like gridless building if I wanted to be gridless. And so obviously you can do some diagonals in this game, but I don't know how like off grid, quote unquote, you can go.
I'll show you. We'll head out to the burbs, and I'll show you.
Let's head out to the burb.
Yeah, I'll do that in a second. Yeah, I was gonna ask, did you ever play SimCity 4 with a bunch of mods?
That's a great question. I think the only mods, if you could even call them that. Ooh, look at this fresh area.
Oh
is
yeah,
that a big
this is
park?
a mod I got recently that just lets you it's a park that I haven't developed yet. There's a mod in here that lets me. I mean, this is the one thing. Yeah, it's like a larger open grass area. So what I've started doing is just making these open area, because I always forget to put parks in my cities. I just always forget, and and so my cities are always this kind of like nightmarish. Or there's a big open space there too. This sort of nightmarish, dense. I kind of like
sort of a Toronto vibe.
Well, or just a sort of a Victorian industrial mess, you know. And then so I've started to like mark these out with the grass, and then I'll come back and put little ponds in there and put little.
Oh, that's awesome!
So I can sort of come back around and rework them later. But yeah,
that distracted me. But what I was going to say is, yeah, the mods that I mostly played with, if you can call them mods, were basically just building types, or so I didn't really mess around with like game overhaul or quality of life mods. It was always just like buildings I really wanted to see and slap down, or types of parks and stuff.
Stations? You get any custom stations? Train stations?
I think so. Yeah. I think I had like a pretty big pile of custom stuff that I was putting in.
Yeah, for sure. No, and
you always get that. Like, sorry to interrupt, but do you still have that? Do you still have that issue of like, you kind of want to load like 1 or 2 mods at a time because it might break it?
Not really. There's a
That was
couple of
nice and
things.
stable.
If you do get back into SimCity 4 at some point, first of all, you should watch my 8 essential mods video.
I will.
Second of all, shameless self-promotion there. That's a cool building.
I love it.
Gonna make that historical. I love these. I like the New York and Chicago set buildings in this game.
Yeah.
I feel like that's one thing when I look at city skylines, I don't really see anything as inspiring as this building. You know?
I hate to bag on City Skylines, which is my major love of the past like decade. But yeah, I do have a problem, and I always make custom districts so that I can like use another mod that I got, which allows you to like customize which buildings spawn. Because there's definitely in Skylines, there's definitely some buildings that I'm like, this just doesn't fit. It doesn't look good.
Yeah.
Whereas like now that I'm looking at SimCity 4 again, I'm like, oh, I forgot about you.
Yeah, no, there's it's neat. There's 4 different sets that come with it, and then of course you can download all your own and stuff. But I do quite like the kind of mix of buildings that you get even out of the box without modding it. But yeah, what I was gonna say is if you want your game not to crash when you have like a huge amount of mods and stuff, then there's you can patch the executable so it can run, I don't know, it's like a 4 GB patch to make it run on modern PCs better, and then there's a fix mod that you put in there that prevents crashes. And honestly, like I used to get crashes all the time in this game. It was just part of life, you know. Every once in a while it crashes and you just lost an hour of your life. But but now I can't for the life of me get the game to crash. I keep you know.
Oh, that's good news. So wait, is that in your, not to help you cross promote to your own fans, but is that detailed in your 8 essentials mod video?
Yes, yeah. It's actually the video is entitled 8 essential mods, bug fixes, and tools. And it's all like stability based stuff, and also fixing like fundamental bugs in the game, which will, like, without the network add-on mod, that's the big one. Without the network add-on mod, you really you're gonna have a hard time building big cities that function. The traffic capacity on the roads. If you look at let's look at a traffic map. Lots of great maps in this game. If you look at
nice traffic.
Yeah, if you look at the traffic view here, well, there's also there's subways and stuff now. I've built some these subway lines. It's just getting started. It's still a pretty small city, and the capacities on these roads when they initially made the game, they had these very high kind of realistic capacities, but they were releasing it for like Pentium 2 computers or something, and when they tested it, they had to like tone it all down, because otherwise your average computer user in 2003 just would never be able to run the simulation. So what the network add-on mod does is it tones it all back up, and also fixes some fundamental pathfinding issues that mean that traffic would just flow in this horrible erratic way. So yeah, that's the big one. And then there's also
great.
Yeah, I've got also some demographics mods in here that make they half the population of the I don't know why I'm saving. Oh, I did stuff. I should save. I did stuff.
Save every 5 minutes.
Yeah. That's actually one of the mods I've installed too, quality of life thing. That's taking a long time. Is there's a save and quit function here. There used to be.
Yeah.
And I have a mod that
disabled
because it it corrupted files. It was notorious for file corruption. So what you do is you save and then you exit without saving. And I've never had a file corrupt. Watch it corrupt right now. I've never had a file corruption issue since I've installed that mod. Yeah, it does. It is a bit slow. Okay, let's go to a
Rob, this is so bad for me. I think I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna put this game back on my.
Oh, you should.
I might. I'll have to buy it again because I only have the disc set, and somewhere buried on my computer, on one of my old laptops, I probably still have a mod pack or something, a building pack. But I'm gonna have to start from scratch.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are we now? Where have you taken me?
The southeast ward of Honestville, where I've got. These are the real highway. This is part of the network add-on mod, so this is a real highway interchange that I built, and these are I mean, building these is like, the one thing I'll say about City Skylines that I think, if there's one thing that's better about it, it's for a beginning player who doesn't want to invest a long time learning in this, it's going to be a lot easier to do this kind of thing. This is like a mess of puzzle pieces. It's like you have to kind of have to do surgery to build these, but once you get the knack of it, there's really no limit to what you can do.
I love it, and yeah, I think one of the big ones, one of the things that I'm taking away right now that like City Skylines you might enjoy a lot is the Move It tool, which allows you to just like tweak segments, so you can kind of build an absolute mess just to get it hooked up and make sure it functions, and then use the Move It tool to like polish it and make it look a lot nicer after the fact, which is a real game changer. And probably, I don't think I would play City Skylines without it anymore.
Oh, that's cool.
And then the other thing I think you'd like is the traffic despawning thing. Like, the traffic doesn't despawn.
Yes,
in City Skylines.
Yeah, and that's partly why one of the things that kind of turned me off City Skylines, and like I was describing when I was describing in the other video, why I never ended up getting into it, which is largely related to me being poor and not having a good computer. But the other part of it was that as I was like, didn't have a bad computer and wanted to get it, I was looking at like the actor limit. They model like every single citizen and how they move around the city, right? And this actually New City is doing the same thing, and I think that they are running into some performance bottlenecks because of that. They're like, here, if I go to the if I like query this house, I can see that there's 2 commuters and that they go to work in this neighboring tile here, right? But look, this green line is telling you where they go, right? But it doesn't really model every individual sim, and the cars that you see here are just an abstracted illustration of the approximate amount of traffic on that route.
Right, of
Whereas
course.
what City Skyline is doing is like when dude actually leaves his house, gets in his car and drives, you're seeing that dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why they spawn and despawn like that, which is definitely one of the no, it's not the most visually pleasing aspect of the game. But what I was going to say is that because they do that, because they model that, they've had to limit the size and scale of cities that you can build.
Of course, yeah.
Because otherwise you just like overload, your CPU or whatever, and they don't seem to have. I may be wrong about this. I know there's some mods that allow you to extend the population maximums and stuff. But I think there are some hard-coded limitations on how big you can get. I think you're right, and I think it comes down to that, to the and we talked about this in the first video. It's like, what do you play when you play one of these games? What are the things that you're looking for? And for me, I really like the living, breathing aspect of it, of being able to just like see these folk go to and from work. Yeah. But what I'm seeing that I'm missing is this massive scale, and it's all coming back to me right now. I'm just like, I've missed this so much. Because it really does. Yeah, you get like a city with massive skyscrapers, and it's like 10,000 people. Yeah. No, in City Skylines, you mean?
Yes, exactly.
It's weird. The scale in the game is just kind of in general weird. And the number, and I noticed someone had commented at one point. I was watching a video somewhere, and someone was talking about the farms, how like you can't get these like really large farms. Like sort of size. Sorry, there's a mod for that?
Sorry. Yeah, there's maybe a bit of delay in our chat here. Okay. So I think I keep interrupting you, but I was going to say, unless you mod, you have to mod what you want. So if you want a big sprawling farm, there's ways to get it done now. But yeah, not in the base game of Skylines.
I was going to show you. You talked about the diagonals and the kind of you can do those really nice rounded streets. Well, in the network add-on mod here, which again you really should get if you want to play this. The thing is, from a quality of life point of view, it's still very. You can see all these tooltips here. I mean, this is not the most user-friendly interface, right? You kind of have to get used to tabbing through all these different things, and it's a little bit more kind of intense in terms of just figuring out. Oh,
I see.
Yeah, so I can like place this one here. That should do it. Yeah, that's good. And then I can join these up like there and there, so I can get some nicer curves and stuff. There's also,
look at that.
Yeah, there's like a fractional angle one too. Because again, it's the limitation we're talking about here is the fact that it's on the grid, right? It's on a square grid, I guess. Grids are always square, right?
I think maybe a hex grid could be the only difference.
Yes, a hex grid, And so yeah, you are limited by the grid, and even when you zone and stuff, where's the fractional ones here? They're called bands, fractionally.
Oh my
angled
goodness! Look at all
networks.
these.
Oh yeah, there's a bunch, and
This is cool.
I try when I make my tutorial videos. I'm trying to sort of maybe make the game a little bit less intimidating to mod for people who maybe don't have the patience or interests or that level of like intense interest in doing this. Let me just.
I could see getting into this. I like this.
Yeah, I think when when you put a certain amount of hours, this is fractional angled, right? So you see it's cutting across the grid.
Yeah.
And it's a little, again, it's puzzle pieces, right? So I gotta.
Yep. So wait, now question: what does this do to those building tiles?
I'll show you.
Does it? Yeah, show me.
Let me see here.
Good call.
I usually like build a network. I've been playing, it's funny, my viewers, you were talking about how you really like the kind of aesthetic side of things, and I like the kind of testing the simulation realism kind of thing. But I get all these comments from viewers, especially the more experienced players, like, "Oh my God, your highway is so lumpy and ugly," and like, people, I don't think it's never a problem. It's never kind of a. They're never trolling me. They're just saying you should really work on this and make this look nicer and stuff. And I kind of appreciate it, and I sort of take that up as a challenge because I'm like naturally inclined to just slap things down, and I just want to look at the numbers,
I totally agree with you that like that's something that happened to me too early on. Is I kept getting tips on how to play the game I was playing, and I started to just embrace that because it's like, you know what, like. And the other thing is like I like I said before, is like I'm not amazing at games.
Yeah. No.
So in a way, they are actually quite helpful.
Oh, and I'm not particularly competitive about this kind of stuff either. There we go. So you see right there, I've got a fractional angled one that kind of cuts across this way.
Doesn't look lumpy at all.
No, well the terrain in this game, that's one thing that I think a bit of a.
It looks
beautiful. How these get lumpy, right? Like
of course, as it goes up and down.
So you can actually, the other thing you can do is you can get a slope mod that will force you to kind of smooth the terrain as you go along, and it's kind of actually a hassle to play with the slope mods, but they can help. I can take if I take, for example, the railroad here, the modded railroad I have has a built-in slope mod, so it sort of
and it does the adjacent stuff too.
Yeah, exactly. So I can kind of do that way, and there's guys who make videos who are like super good at that kind of stuff, and I'm actually just not, and my patience for it is somewhat limited. Where was I going with this? I wanted to make a road that kind of goes along the edge of this hill here, that tiny little.
I was wondering, like, so what's the major project you're working on right now? Basically, just filling out this area, developing the.
Well,
burbs.
because I like to. The part of the concept of Honestville is again the sort of realistic demographics, just from me being a urban planning geek, basically, and so.
Yep.
So I'm trying to develop the city around the kind of natural contours of let's do a roundabout.
Love it. I love that there's roundabouts in the game now.
Well, that's modded.
That's
like
amazing.
there's one like this that just does it automatically, and then there's another one. Yeah, and then there's one here. This one's cool. The one-way road. Does that even make sense? Is that okay? And then you tap in the middle, you get a little fountain.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
That's a well-designed mod.
Yeah, I know. I don't even know if I can plug this avenue into this though. Oh no, you know what I can do though? There's all sorts of neat tricks. There's like workarounds, right? Like the game doesn't natively want to do this kind of thing, but I can separate this out. And I mean, this is a bit of a wonky workaround here, but I can separate it out and then like that, and then I can have that road come in here and this one come in there. That's a bit silly, but you can see, I could pick a different. There are some other roundabouts I could pick there that would be more kind of designed for this particular avenue shape. But there really is like the sky is the limit in terms of all the crap you can download for this game and the many hours you can sink into it. So but it is possible now to do more of this kind of curvy stuff. Oh, I was going to show you the zoning too, right?
Show me some zoning on those fractional curves or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see.
Stick that there so I don't forget to do that. And so the fractional zoning is a bit weird. It's not. You can see here, like it basically just that square is. Oops, I didn't do that right. There we go. Hold the shift key. So you can see that.
No, I see.
You see what it's doing? So it does kind of stagger them.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you know, it's funny too. The same thing goes with diagonal streets. At the end of the day, you're always better to have the lot facing, that lot being, if you go in the zone.
Yeah, okay.
Here, the little arrow. You're always better to have it facing an orthogonal, what's that word? You know, a square. The ones that are aligned to the grid, orthogonal.
Rectangular or something, yeah.
But because it's kind of neat when you get to the bigger buildings, if they have diagonal, I wish I had an example here. If they have like a diagonal, here's one. Here's an example of a diagonal. They kind of look okay, even though they're not oriented to the diagonal.
Oh,
right?
I see what you mean. Yeah, because the grass sort of fills in or something.
Yeah, exactly. So when you, and especially because like this game, I kind of feel like this. You know, let me put it to you this way. I would posit that like Cities Skylines probably looks better when you zoom in, but this game looks better when you zoom out. Like when you're out, when you're looking at like a cityscape, like it's like you're in an airplane and you're flying over a giant city. You know, you really get this view of. So as soon as I start zooming out, like it really doesn't. It isn't bothersome that the diagonals are kind of weird, but you do have to sort of. Mess with it.
No, I like it. Well, and it's like you said, it's the scale, right? It's these sweeping suburbs rather than like a little community with 10 houses that houses 1,000 people or something. Yours is like, it definitely seems more realistic in that sense.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm getting right now, this area right here that you're flying over, where they like most of them have, those are trampolines. I thought those were all pools.
I think they're pools, man.
There's somebody jumping on them.
Yeah, it's. Wait a second. I never noticed that. Oh my God, you're right. It's a trampoline.
Those are trampolines.
They have trampolines.
I thought it was a pool because I was about to make a Montreal comment. Whenever I've flown over Montreal, everybody's got a pool in their backyard.
I meant
in
to
the
ask you
suburbs,
that. I was going to ask you that because like we were talking last video about, you know, when you started playing city builders and kind of what inspires you to play them. And I think we've touched on that a bit indirectly here.
Yeah.
By the way, these kids playing on the slide, I never noticed that.
You've never noticed that before?
I never zoom in, man. I'm always just looking at the stats and like looking at the big picture. So you know, it is nice.
Rob, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here, Rob.
Yeah, looking at the to show me. You're here to show me the kids playing on the slide. Yeah. There's some kids on a swing set too.
Yeah.
I wish there is. Oh man, I wish I had. There's a console. Like there's a cheat command where you can custom zoom. Like you can
get even closer.
You can get even closer. I'll do that sometime soon. I'm going to be going around Honestville on my channel and like custom zooming way in so we can see the blurry little sim kids on their swing set.
I love this game.
Yeah, I know it's a great game. There's lots of great stuff. We can just zoom around the neighborhood here and see.
I love those gazebos and like you've got little events going on. Now there's that's Montreal looking right there. That pool. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, where are you based?
I'm out of Vancouver. We're both Canadians.
You're Canadian too, because I knew you were. In Pacific time, but for some reason I had assumed you were south of the border. But we're both Canadians. That's hilarious.
A couple of Canadians just chopping it up.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I've been to Montreal a bunch. I've done a lot of shows out there because you've got all the big comedy stuff out there, just for laughs and whatnot.
Cool.
So what? Basically, anytime I'm in a plane, which has not been for a while now,
not some time,
but anytime, anytime I'm in a plane and we're coming into land, whether it be like in the middle of the day or at night, it doesn't matter. As soon as the plane's landing, I'm looking out the window. I'm like, gotta probably play SimCity.
yeah, no,
or City Skylines. But like as soon as I see that, I'm like, well, there we go.
You get the itch.
I can feel another week of my life disappear. As soon as the plane is landing, I'm like, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to say hi to my wife first, and then I'm probably going to play a little City Skylines.
Well, see, I live in the central city now, and but I live kind of on the edge of it. Like, I don't live right downtown because it's kind of boring downtown and it's expensive. But I get that sometimes when I go downtown, when I go like shopping downtown Montreal and I see like the skyscrapers and the sort of big boulevards and stuff, and I like look at how the alleyways meet the boulevards and the sort of the intensity of the infrastructure, you know? You know what's
so funny about that is you were describing, and I think you're right, you were describing that like you always like SimCity is zoomed out and you kind of play like a zoomed out game, like you're in the stats and you're playing the big picture. And I'm playing the smaller stuff.
Yeah.
But what gets you wanting to play the game is when you're down at street level. And what gets me wanting to play the game is when I'm zoomed out. It's just kind of weird how like
it's a weird, it's like a reverse kind of paradox type thing or whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
And we both end up in the same way where we just have to play this friggin' game.
Yeah, or some city builder anyway. Yeah, I'm trying to
some
find
kind of game. Yeah.
Trying to find this is a pond mod that I downloaded recently.
I love this.
Yeah, I'm not super good at it, but I can at least.
Well, I see what you mean with the puzzle pieces. Yeah, you got to find the pieces that like the edges that fit nice.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of patience basically, and not all of them are well designed in a way that makes it easy to do that. But you get, I mean, that's the other thing too. These menus, the more mods you download, the more these menus just get packed full of stuff. And I don't even know, there might be a way to edit them.
I think that that even might be a criticism on the video on my channel of our conversation. People might be like, "Man, you took forever going around those menus," because I was like trying to remember where stuff was. It just gets so packed. This is looking nice. There we go.
A little. Now this is, you know what? I've picked the wrong piece here because this is a transition. There's the stone texture and then there's the grass one. So if I want to do this, I want to kind of min-max my pond here. I can grab. I think it's this one. That's it. Yeah.
There it is.
There it is. It's
min-max that pond.
Min-max the pond, yeah. Yeah, now again,
people thought StarCraft 2 was hard. No. We're min-maxing some pond action here.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh man, look at all the stuff you have. That's amazing.
Yeah, I want to. Oh, you know what? I should show you these. These are great. This is the Simmer 2 is a pretty big SimCity 4 modder, and he made these are highway sound barriers.
Oh, cool.
But they've got graffiti on them.
No way.
Yeah. I'm just going to stick a skate park in here just for kicks. You know what? A skate park near the pond? I'm imagining some kid going up a ramp and just landing in the pond.
For sure, bailing in there. And then you've got like a mix of like all these street youths that want to skateboard and then some old ladies trying to feed some ducks. And they're like, we are not supposed to be in the same park.
I'm leaving it for now. I'm leaving it. Let me do some sound barriers here. You'll notice that the game is also just lagging horrendously, and that it's actually not you know, as much as I am excusing my not the best computer specs or whatever, it is a hard limitation of the game. That is another thing too, is when you mod the shit out of this game, you will have weird performance things, and no matter how good your computer is, it just kind of can't.
Of course.
Yeah, but that's whatever. You know, I don't mind it. I
guess it's because like modding, like getting a look at that. That's awesome.
Yep.
Does it even lower the land value a little bit, or?
oh man, I wish it did. Yeah, they should definitely have a NIMBY effect.
Yeah, totally.
Or they could, you know what they could do? They could do like a YIMBY, like a positive effect for low income, and then a NIMBY for the rich people. So like when like the rich people move into your neighborhood and they ask for all the like wicked graffiti walls to be taken down.
Yeah, and so then you have to decide as the city planner. You're like, do I just go clean all these walls off, or do I just like do I figure a way to kick out the rich folks?
Yeah, exactly. There's
which would never happen in real life. I don't. Oh, cool.
Wait, it's supposed to face the highway. It's the emergency telephone for if your car breaks down.
Right, of course.
Could have some graffiti facing the highway as well. I think there's a double graffiti one in here somewhere.
I would almost have, you'd almost have it facing the highway as opposed to the backyard.
Well,
I guess it would be on both sides, wouldn't it?
Depends what part of town you're in.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So what part of town is this, Rob?
This is the southeast ward. This is actually a suburban area. I built this quite recently. This is
but are they well off? Are they just getting by?
Pretty much everyone. Let's find out. Pretty much everyone in the city is kind of middle. Got a pretty even spread of. This is how we find that out. Let me just.
Yep.
I'll just take everything off except the residential, so that we can have a proper chart here. Yeah, it's actually. It looks like this is middle class. This is
the high class,
high wealth, and then this is poor. So it's kind of interesting because again, what I've done in terms of jobs, again, in the interest of sort of realism, you know, if we're going to say that this is a contemporary North American city, I mean, that kind of looks about right. In depending on where you are, obviously.
Right.
In terms of like wealth and poverty, and there's always like 20% of people that are on the lower end and whatever. Yeah. So having a mix, and I purposely leave areas in the city that are kind of like dirty industry and manufacturing industry. That's one thing, and that's what I'd be curious, because again, you have more experience in city skylines than me, obviously. But I'd be curious to know what your impressions are of. because this game, like, I find Skyline cities, they often look like these kind of like pristine, clean, environmentally sounds. Like, I feel like they have less grit than, you know? Like,
yeah. You know why that is, though? That's mods again. So if you play the base game, there is anywhere you have sort of industrial areas, there will be a bit more. I think there's a bit more smoke, but again, I've turned it off.
Yeah.
But there also the ground will go sort of a weird purple, which people hate. A lot of the pro players hate the purple, so they turn that off entirely. Other people will put in a LUT that changes the color, so at least it looks brown and like dirty. Or like garbagey or something like that. But most people just like, I've turned it off because I'm, like you said, I'm kind of living in that utopia of like industry is fine to have around.
Well, I mean, for me, it's like for me, it's sort of like what I sort of like about it is that, like, you know, cities have, you know, cities have rich neighborhoods and poor neighborhoods. Cities have manufacturing industry. They have offices. Like, you know, in a weird way, these games, I feel like there's like that's an interesting point. I feel like there's like two sides to these games. There's the one side where people are sort of like, I'm going to build a city and then, like, you know, have Godzilla rampage through it. So there's the destructive impulse that I think does come into play. And then there's like this sort of utopia side of things. Like, are you going to create a dystopian hellscape, or are you going to create like an eco-utopia? And this game allows for both. This game really allows for both. Here I've got some sort of like, you know, kind of industrial row house type stuff going on here. This is neat too. This is one of my favorite things about this game is how here, wait, this one's just kind of abandoned actually. I was trying to find a good example. Yeah, here we go. So here we have like small condos. This is a middle class building, or a middle wealth building, whatever it's called. You can see that only one simoleon sign is lit up there, and that means that, like, it's downgraded. So the building looks the building looks grungier and it's less well kept, and also the number of occupants increases because people live more people live in a unit than
you pack them in,
or they've like cut, you know, when they like take buildings that used to have like big apartments and they cut them into smaller units when like the rent goes up or whatever. So there's this really granular demographic thing that happens in this game that I feel like some of the more recent games haven't done. I've also cut the residential. Doesn't really do that. I've cut these values in half with a mod, like the maximum occupancy. Because I found that if you go to a house, it's actually easier if you look at an individual house.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because that apartment building could hold. Right.
So here we've got a maximum of 6. The default is 12. And if you think, I know, again, if you want to build a Victorian city, 12 people to a single family home is pretty rare. So you end up with actually higher populations than you would based on, again, the question of scale.
Here's my only pushback, and this is because I'm a person who lives in Vancouver. That house in Vancouver would probably still exist within the city limits, and it would be like a $4 million house, which is crazy. But there would be maybe 4 or 5 different units in the house now. So like I could see 12 people living that in Vancouver at least.
Yeah, well, I mean, and the thing is, I guess for me, the reason I made that choice, and it is obviously like a choice or a compromise, is
for sure,
is because like you can have that, but if you don't put it's a residential housing mod. If you don't put that mod in, you will have it in every house for the entire city. So it's like impossible to have this low density suburban area, and then when you get like these towers, I mean, this building here, 300
it had like twice that,
300 people living in that's like a 9-story walk up or something. Like it's pushing it when you think about I mean, I don't know, I did the math at one point. I was like,
so those row houses actually seem still kind of inflated, so it looks like that's one you were trying to, because like 40 people in those 3 units.
It looks that
even that. So that was 80 before your mod.
Imagine it being 6 units if each floor had a separate apartment.
Okay, yeah.
But then
again, that was 80 people before the mod, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, 80 people, which is insane, right?
That's crazy for those 3 row houses or 6 units. Yeah.
And the population figures are higher in the lower income lots. Like here's what. Okay, there we go. There's a good example. So this guy here, maximum 39. This is like a middle class row house. And it's 15.
Right. Oh,
So-
I see. Yeah,
so
because it's expanded.
there's
They've
this-
taken more space.
Yeah, so there's this kind of granular side, like this, you know, again, 15 people in that. That's like 2 or possibly maybe one of them is divided vertically or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's this
It's
kind
starting to get more reasonable, though.
yeah,
That makes more
sort of
sense.
granular, this kind of granular
Man, that's so cool.
demographics of the city.
Honestly, and I think like the way that City Skylines players or believers like myself, we get conditioned to just maybe even ignore those numbers because there's no way it's gonna match up.
Yeah, well, and then when you get into the traffic design, like I have the network add-on mod allows you to set the capacity for the different roads, and I have set it actually to ultra, which is because these games.
Road.
Well, in terms of the capacity, because these games, I feel like SimCity, even this game, even though it lets you build huge cities, all of the challenges when the game was originally designed are designed for like small to mid-sized cities. Like all the rewards you get, it's like, oh, when you get to 20,000, you get your city hall or whatever, right? And the road system is the same. So what you end up with is a city of 200,000 people that you're building a subway train through.
Right.
You know, and like how many cities?
Didn't have that yet.
Yeah, I can see a highway in a city that size, but most small cities don't have mass transit.
Or they can't even put the budget together to like afford a mass transit. Like,
well, yeah, exactly.
in reality, there's no way it would be workable.
Yeah, so I've increased all. That's why I don't get that much traffic because I've made everything. I will only get traffic in this area when
okay.
Yeah, when the city gets much bigger. I also got all sorts.
And then you'll start to see like clogged roads a little bit.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't know what you're planning on doing right now, but what does a really dirty area of town look like?
You know what? I wanted to show you that. I clicked this tile by accident. I wanted to show you the dirty industry part of this because I got a really cool port mod. I have a port mod that makes the seaports in the game are broken. The vanilla game are broken. Like I said this in one of my tutorials. If you're going to use seaports, you have to get this mod. If you don't want to get the mod, then don't use seaports because they ship all the industry off the map, but they don't replace the demand.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So I've done. I'm pretty happy with this seaport. This is a.
That looks cool.
Yeah.
So this is all like what you're saying. The puzzle pieces. It's all customs.
This one is actually just the whole lot is. I do have the puzzle pieces separate, but these ones here, if I can grab, I think it's this one here. I don't know if I can. Yeah, you can't really see it until I place it. I don't really have a spot.
I see what you're saying, though. Yeah.
Yeah. So it actually grows though. It grows to 8 different stages. And this one doesn't have really much road in terms of road connections, but some of them have like rail connections. You can plug your rail system right into them.
Very cool.
Yeah, and then I've got these. This is sort of like stone rail trench that leads down into it.
Wall kind of thing. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and then
I love that.
There's seawalls, the seawalls mod, but this mod here has about 45 dependencies, so it's like you have to spend an afternoon to get this to work. So,
right, okay.
In fact, I'm probably going to make a video. There's a way you can get some of these to work without doing that. I'm probably going to make a video just about that because I keep getting questions like, oh my god, it's going to take me a whole day to get this mod to work. Like, is there no other way? And I'm going to post a video because there are a couple workarounds, but all these props are... Yeah.
Your comment to those people is like, yeah, are you serious about playing SimCity 4 or not? It's going to take a day.
It's funny. I gotta say, one of the things I like about SimCity 4 is the community around it, because it's not a very kind of competitive. Like Simtropolis is a pretty good place to hang out. You don't see like snarky trolling comments and stuff.
That's good.
Let me just take a look and see if I can find you some other dirty industry buildings here. Most of it's weeded out. Yeah, some of these.
So in Skylines, the industry will also like kill the trees around unless you turn that off in a mod. But are there environmental effects that are visible in that way?
Yeah, if you zoom out, I don't know if I have it on, but if you zoom out, you do get like a smoky. If there's enough industry, there might not be enough here.
You can see it.
Yeah,
you can see the haze when you mouse over it.
I think I might have turned the clouds off. I'm not sure, but you can actually get a whole haze. Like here you can see the haze.
Yeah, I'm seeing the haze. Yeah.
See that sort of like small.
Rob's red hot grease pit. What's the grease pit?
Is this whole area the grease pit? It was a naming recommendation, and it was such a great name that I should actually normally I would just name the building Rob's red hot grease pit. but
Love it.
But I wanted it to stand out because it's such a great name.
I want to be able to see it.
There's people in the comments on these videos are always like, there's a Rob's Red this, Rob's like someone was like, name a car dealership, Rob's Red Hot Rod. I can't remember what it was, but just the endless puns on the channel name. Pretty hilarious. It's been fun. But yeah, the community is pretty positive, SimCity 4, and there are games, and this is the thing about video game culture. There are games where people are very kind of like competitive-minded and occasionally mean-spirited, and someone will say like, "Oh, there's so many dependencies for this mod," and then they're just sort of like, "Deal with it," But that's not what it's like at all in this. And I think that's probably true for a lot of other city builder games and stuff, but it's not like that at all. It's really very much like people are like, "Yes, I know." So for my channel, I really do with the tutorials try and be a little bit more helpful, because I can totally understand people have a limited degree to which they want to get involved in
or to which they can get involved. I guess even
can or able or figure out how to do. So yeah.
Yep.
And the answer to in this game, it's really the sky's the limit in terms of what you can, how involved you can get with modding your game, right? So
I love it. Let me ask you this. I don't know if you happen to know this or not, but like the company that owns it right now and is like, when you buy SimCity 4, I don't know who gets the money, but what is that company? Is it still Maxis?
Maxis was purchased by EA.
Oh,
so
right,
game,
right.
the SimCity 5 or SimCity in brackets 2013.
Oh, I'm not really familiar with it. I don't know anything about that game.
I don't know if you've heard about that, but that game was produced a little bit after this one, and after EA gobbled up Maxis. Actually, EA EA bought Maxis before they made SimCity 4, but they didn't start to, let's say, change Maxis until after it, And
right.
One of the cool things about this game, actually, it's funny. This game, the release of SimCity 4 was timed with the release of the original Sims game, which of course became. Oh, this is a great row of houses here. I love when I find these little.
Yeah, cool.
I love like a consistent, and then when I see something like this, I just
make it historical. Yep.
Yeah.
Same thing in Skylines. They just like copied that over.
Yeah, no, for sure. But yeah, so I feel like the Sims became the big seller for Maxis. And that's
and
what
they dumped it.
But that's what I think probably made. Boy, we kind of suck to live with this big cemetery behind you.
Unless you're into it.
Yeah, unless you're into it.
Yeah. That's a lot of people that need to be into that kind of morbid. I guess So that's a bummer to think about and to hear when a giant company that is just sort of looking at the bottom line grabs the game. Because I was going to ask, like, what is the future of SimCity, and like, are we going to see a revival of I think what happened was, it sounds like EA thought of the community differently than the community thought of themselves.
Yes, I think that's true.
Like, they were like, this is what they want. They want something sort of multiplayer, or they want a little more like feedback within the buildings or something like that, like the modular idea.
Yep.
Whereas what we really wanted was really complicated train sets that we could tinker with forever.
Yeah,
and that game, like SimCity 5 seems to have more. Oh, cool, little paraglider. SimCity 5 seems to have more of like a end game almost, where it's like you've won, as opposed to SimCity 4, where it's like no, you design forever. You're never done. If you don't want to be.
My sense is that one of the things that happened is when they moved from SimCity 4 to what I would call the like truly 3D city builders, like SimCity 5, like City Skyline, Cities XL, where there's really like you have a camera that you can move around. When we went into that scale, I think that, and they started like rendering a lot of the cars and stuff like that, there were real performance limitations. So I feel like in some ways the reason why SimCity 4 allows you to build cities on such a vast scale, if you set it up right, is because they hit some serious challenges with making a game this complex. I feel like they had to make the games less complex in terms of all the moving parts to make them function in a 3D world.
Well, and I think they learned that in some respects that is the wrong move.
Yeah.
To oversimplify, because I don't think it sold that well. Wasn't it a bit of a flop?
It was a flop because at launch, I think their multiplayer servers crashed. You couldn't play it if you weren't online. It was one of those games where they were trying to figure out like, how can we force people to pay for this and never use a cracked copy? We'll just force them to be online or something, and then
nobody will have problems with that.
and then they had like this horrendous a bunch of people couldn't play it because their servers were fucked or something. So
yeah.
Right. So I got these.
Yeah, that's the worst.
These are cool. I really like these. These are underpasses you can make in the game. Like just tons.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, all the kind of leveled underpasses, and you can layer the city, sort of triple layer. This is a train. This is a custom train station I have.
I like that. That's a nice modern looking train station.
Yeah, I've got some. I always mix them up. There we go. That's a flexible underpass. So you've got to kind of do a weird puzzle piece configuration to do that.
Oh, it's puzzle piece again. I love it. I think that there's some buildings that are jumping out at me. Like there was that industrial looking with the yellow framework around it that was lowered down.
It was probably in the industrial area, maybe.
It was on that. No, it was on that train line we were just on.
Oh shit. Okay, I'll see if I can find it.
Those ones right there at the bottom with the yellow.
This one? Oh, that's the high-tech industry.
Right. Yeah. I remember that one. And then there's the llama tourist trap. I think is that what that was?
Wait, I think I have one of those in this town. Oh, I totally.
Yeah, we passed it a couple minutes ago.
Yeah, it's up. It's up on the highway here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one actually has a negative.
Those are the buildings. Oh, it does. Oh, it's right here. I just pointed physically, and I forgot you can't see that.
Yeah.
There it is. Tourist trap.
Yeah. Maxis had this like really great sense of humor that they kept going in The Sims. Like if you look at the interface of this actually has identical UI design to The Sims 1.
Totally.
And there's actually like this My Sims feature here. Like they were really pushing The Sims, like they were, and you could actually export regions from this into The Sims 2. So there's all these weird artifacts, like the You Drive It thing, which God, I don't even.
Oh yeah, You Drive It. I forgot about that.
You know, it's funny. People keep asking me on Twitch, like, "Oh, are you gonna do You Drive It now?" And I confess that after about 15 years of playing this game, I have actually never even completed the You Drive It tutorial. I'm gonna do a video soon where I Rob learns You Drive It for the first time after playing this game. It's a feature of the game I'm gonna need to see categorically ignored for so long, but it's cool. It's actually really cool. It's kind of neat. You can sort of pick any vehicle and hop in.
I feel like that was me in Oxygen Not Included. That was me with like the farming and stuff like that, or the ranching rather. But it's absolutely necessary to know how to do that in that game. But I just couldn't figure it out. So I was like, I just don't play like that.
No, it's funny. It really speaks to the point we were saying in the last video and sort of throughout that everybody has different reasons why they play this game and it's sometimes I'll be trying to solve a problem and I'll be like, oh, I want to get this reward or something. I got to get a certain amount of commercial to get this reward or something, and I'll get a comment in the YouTube videos be like, dude, you can just do the You Drive It mission, and I'll just answer like that never occurred. That never would have occurred to me.
Yeah, of course. Well, and I think that's like we said in the last video, is like that's the sign of a game that will last the test of time.
Yeah,
it's like, can you have a great community, but like can that community have 4 different sub communities of like, I play the game like this, I'm here just trying to get the biggest city, or like I'm dialing in on the aesthetics.
Yeah,
like can you engage with the game in totally different ways and have different player sets almost. And I guess where I'm wrong is, for example, I mentioned earlier, like StarCraft 2, a very specific way to play that game, but it also stood the test of time. So I guess I'm a little bit wrong as far as like, that's not a hard and fast rule about a successful game, but definitely they have that in common.
No, but it's certainly, I mean, I think for this kind of builder game, it's the sort of sandbox element of it is pretty important.
Yeah.
The other game I play a lot of, totally unrelated, is Morrowinds, which is like another old game kind of from a similar era, and that's another game that's been modded to all insanity, and that a lot of these games, like just mods in general, kind of turn the game into a canvas or a sandbox. And there are people who their way of playing this game, I kind of have a hybrid approach, but there are people whose way of playing this game is just to cheat in a bunch of money at the start, cheat in a bunch of money so that they can build the city exactly as they want to. And I get that. And it's so funny. You'll get comments on the forums and stuff, and like, oh, that's cheating or whatever. I mean, everyone has their own house rules, right?
Of course. Yeah, absolutely.
You got to have them. Everyone has their own house rules, and sometimes the house rules are anything goes. But that's still a rule,
That's still a rule. Yeah. Well, and yeah, it's like it's true. You are very much playing the game in a different way, but you're still playing the game. Like you're
Yeah.
still interacting with it in the way that you want.
Mm-hmm.
And is a great sign. Actually, to that point, and about the Starcraft 2, I remember SimCity 4, Starcraft 2, like those were the things on my computer.
Yeah.
And there was a mod where you could do like a comp stomp, where you were like playing versus the AI.
In Starcraft?
But you'd mod the game so that the resources never ran out. So you could just turtle up inside your little base and then wait until you were ready to launch a huge attack. All you had to do was defend.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that's definitely not competitive at all.
Yeah.
That's not how anybody plays that game on a serious level. But again, it's just like, yeah, that's how I interact with the game.
Yeah.
And I think with City Skylines, mine is a bit of a hybrid where it's like I definitely want to just build the city I want. And I kind of even ignore the money sometimes until I'm like, oh crap, I got to deal with that. Okay, I'll put in a bunch of.
You deal with it when it's a problem, yeah.
Yeah, but I still am not ready to totally just turn that off.
Yeah.
And I wonder why, because I think there's a sense of me, like what you said, like I have these internal rules that I'm not letting myself break, where it's like I just don't feel like I'm really playing the game unless I know that the city actually is making money.
You know, it's funny.
I don't know why.
Do you play any like Paradox games like Europa Universalis or even maybe some of the Civ games or something?
Play some Civ games, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't play the Europa one, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But I mean, any of those kind of what are they called 4X games or whatever?
Yeah, 4X. Games,
you know, SimCity has been so influential on the way I play video games in general that I tend to play those games, and in some of those games there really is a meta, right? It's like, look, this doing culture in Civ 6 or whatever might, it's either worth it or not worth it, right? But but there's the SimCity attitude is kind of a lot more like, but I want to, like there's like things that I want to do that maybe are not optimal at all,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
but I really like how you said that. It's like, but I want to.
Yeah.
So I will.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's been fun. I've actually really enjoyed the just doing this stuff online, making the YouTube videos, going on Twitch or whatever format it happens to be, and I've really enjoyed that because you see people's perspectives. You see how some people will look at this road here and they'll. Well, actually, this one's not that. Well, yeah, even here, like these little like lumpy kind of squarish things or whatever, and they're just fixating on that, and that's like, and other people are going to be focusing on other aspects of the game, but
yeah. They're just like, just min-max, just like get the unlock the stuff and you drive it and stuff like that.
Exactly. But it's cool. It's cool. That's the. You know what I wanted to ask you? I asked you where you were based, which I guess you said Vancouver. What I wanted to ask you is, so one thing that for me, going back, we went on a bit of a nostalgia trip in the other video, and kind of in that same vein. So I actually grew up. I live now in a fairly central area of Montreal, and but I grew up in the country. I grew up in a village of like 200 people. And
oh wow!
So when I first started playing City Builders, I was always kind of fascinated by big cities. I always kind of dreamed of living in the big city, as cliche as that is or whatever. But so for me, there was this kind of vicarious aspect to playing City Builders. It was sort of like building the place that I wanted to live or whatever,
Oh, totally.
So how do you think you relate to? I mean, I guess what that speaks to, not necessarily that particular instinct, but just the idea that there's this kind of it's sort of a fantasy world, right? Like all video games, and yeah, I think there's a lot of that going on in these city builders. I see a lot of people building the city they'd like to live in.
Totally. I think it's definitely some of that. I actually grew up in Calgary. Which for those of you who are not familiar with Canada is like sort of like our Texas. It's sort of a I mean, Canada doesn't really have big cities, quote unquote. Like even Toronto, our biggest city, and Vancouver is pretty big as well, but like compared to an American city or like
Toronto and Montreal are big are in the kind of like A tier of large cities, I'd say, but yeah, like sort of 4 to 6 million people or whatever, and then we've got a lot of like those small mid-sized cities.
Yeah, and I guess that's and maybe as a city planner you'd be able to tell me the actual statistics or whatever, but like I mean like I have some friends and stuff like that from it's like Tokyo or Chicago or New York. You're like, okay, that's a big city. So I think that definitely, I've been to some of those cities, and I actually I don't jam with them very well. Like I think Vancouver is the biggest city I could live in.
Interesting.
Yeah. So in a sense, there is still that fantasy. I like making giant cities and seeing these big sprawling downtowns because I get to engage with them in a video game, and they're nice and it's
that's really interesting. I never thought
for
of
me,
it that
that's
way.
the ability to be in control of it.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way. So it could be, in one sense, it could be vicarious in the sense that like you really do kind of wish you lived somewhere else, and so it's this fantasy. In another sense, it's like, no, I want this in a game because I don't want it in real life.
A lot of the games I play are similar to that. Like I wouldn't want to live in a post-apocalyptic village or whatever, but I definitely like working on one.
Yeah, no, exactly, for sure.
And I also, to that end, like one of my favorite slight city builders, I guess you could call it, more a colony sim, is like Banished.
Oh, yeah. I've been wanting to play that.
And yeah, I love that game. I probably wouldn't last very long in it for real, but yeah, that's the fantasy.
No, for sure. Yeah, I mean, that's just so much. I mean, that's just so essential. Like, it's interesting how even a city builder, like there's this creative aspect to it, and then there's also that kind of like fantasy world aspect as well. I mean, video games are such a weird animal because like some of the same things that drive people to play like one of those a Morg, massive multiplayer online role-playing games, Morg, or how do you pronounce that? Like some of the same things that will drive people to spend like untold hours in one of those. Yeah. It's kind of the same things going on in your head when you're playing this.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just whatever inspires you, based on your interests and your
whatever makes you tick. You know what? One thing I'm missing from City Skylines too. This is such a tiny piece. Is like you lay down the road and then you see a little construction vehicle come along and actually build the road. I miss that.
You do here.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I missed.
Oh, you missed it. Oh, okay. I thought. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't have that.
Not in that. Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird thing.
I was just watching it happen.
It's funny that you mentioned that because when I'm building really quickly, I actually find it annoying because there's this 30-second thing where the road doesn't properly appear because it's still being built. And so like, no, I need to see where that road is so I can do the connecting road. There we go. The construction animations in general are pretty cool.
Absolutely, yeah. Really good.
Yeah,
and that's probably also my favorite part, especially on a fresh new city. That first moment where you get going and like you see all the growth happening. And there's all the moving trucks.
No, it's really interesting though. We talk about these kind of like I think these sort of almost AAA city builders, if you will. But there's also like I don't play a lot of games on my phone or whatever. But there's like video games have become such a bigger thing than they were. I think when we were kids.
Totally. They're mainstream too. Like it's okay to play them.
I take the subway. Back when there wasn't COVID and I could get on the subway without worrying.
Yeah.
And I'll see. I don't know, a 6-year-old girl playing something on her phone, or like someone in their like late 60s playing a game on their phone or whatever. So there's just and there's a lot of like builder games on that format as well. Because it kind of makes sense to do that kind of thing on your phone. These little like SimCity build it. In some ways, if you had to, I won't play it. I'm not interested in it, right? But in some ways, I would almost say if you asked me the question, do you think SimCity Build It or SimCity 5 are a better game? I would be tempted to say that SimCity Build It is more interesting because they at the very least with that game, they've taken it and they've moved it to a new medium.
Right, yeah. So it's like, this is the best way to engage with that game, whereas SimCity 5 like maybe doesn't have a good way to engage with it.
I don't know. I mean, I probably shouldn't go live defending SimCity Build It on on YouTube, but it's an interesting. I was just saying it's an interesting point. Like I think these games also are going to evolve because I feel like most people these days don't play video games on a computer.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah.
I mean, there's the console thing.
I will, but yeah, totally.
There's the console thing, and that's one side of it. But I mean, beyond that, I mean, the main. I know. There's a fairly. You're in Vancouver. I'm in Montreal. Both these cities have pretty big video game industries, and most people in the industry will tell you that a lot of the companies that are making the big bucks are the ones making mobile games.
Yeah, it's the multi-platform thing.
Yeah,
but which is kind of a bummer, just because it does mean that that means that the main profit motive is like advertising or micro purchases. It's just if that's the only way people want to play games, I guess that's how it has to be. But it's a bummer.
I kind of feel like they haven't. I kind of feel like they have not figured out. Like I think they know that we hate that. I don't think there's too many people who really relish microtransactions, frankly.
Yeah.
And I think that they have not quite figured out how to introduce elements of that without it being like terrible for gameplay.
Yeah.
I mean, I also think that some of them are just kind of scumbags and are perfectly happy to take people's money, But beyond the sort of cynical view of things, I think there's aspects. It's the same thing with the DLCs, right? I mean, DLCs on the one hand with City Skylines, it's annoying when if you want to get into the game. Oh, here's a tramway. If you want to get into the game, this is cool too because this one you can connect it up to. Where does it go here? It can connect up to the subway system seamlessly.
Oh, nice.
So
I like that.
That's also on a road, so it's like in the middle of the road, in the median. And then where does it go here? It turns off. There we go. It turns off, and there's a station off the road, and then it goes.
And then it goes underground.
Goes underground. That's great. Yeah. And then at the other end of this city over here, I think it goes above ground here to cross the rail line there.
Yeah, that's a bit more Vancouver-y.
Yeah, the SkyTrain.
Or transition, above ground and then below ground. But they're always like raised. They're never street level.
Yeah, no. Here a lot of them are underground because of the climate, but
Le métro.
Yeah, man, the metro. So anyway, I think that's but yeah, that's what I was saying though. So for me, it was always like it's funny because like I moved to a bigger city when I went to college and stuff, and could finally free myself of this little village rural existence that was my childhood. And it's interesting. Still playing SimCity though.
Dreaming about those big cities. No, I like it. It's also interesting that you went into city planning based on that too.
Yeah, I mean, I never ended up like working in the field or anything. It's one of those things that you study in college and then never actually do anything about. But like I learned, I like no regrets, right? Like right. I learned all sorts of. It's interesting too because I learned a lot about what sort of does and doesn't work in these games in terms of what they model. Like one thing that I noticed because it's a game, right? It's a game, so it has to like every aspect of a city that's simulated has to somehow create stimulating gameplay, right? Otherwise, it doesn't really work. And one thing that's interesting is that I would say maybe 75% of your time in these games is spent building transportation systems. But
yeah.
But if you think about and if you have bad traffic in a city, it'll like kind of kill your city, right? But in real life, if you think about like New York City or like Manhattan or whatever, traffic's kind of bad there, like many real world cities work despite bad traffic.
Having bad traffic.
Not because of their efficient transportation system. So when you kind of get into min-maxing these games to a certain degree, there's this artificial aspect of it where you're solving these little transportation puzzles, and like that is part of real life city planning. But the level, and that's the level of focus that's put on it is a little bit strange because if you had a really if someone was going to pay you $500,000 a year, but you had to endure an hour and a half commute to get to that job, I mean, what would your choice be, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So it is interesting how there's sort of artifacts of these games that.
Well, and I think to your point, I think the future of cities, city skylines, or whatever, like the future city builders are going to have to maybe see if they can improve upon that. Otherwise, there's going to be no real reason to leave some of these old classics. Mm-hmm. But if you can improve upon the AI so that there's like events that affect parts of your city, or global events that kind of make things a lot harder for a bit, or like a pandemic makes everybody work from home, so like all of a sudden your cities have a huge problem with like land value, but like your suburbs are blowing up, like people can't get enough of the suburbs for a bit, and then they collapse and you're like, oh no.
So my fantasy city builder game that I if I could make a game, this is the game that I would make. Is a hybrid of. It's a Paradox game. You probably haven't played it, but you should check it out. It's Victoria 2. Victoria 2. It's like Europa Universalis. If you've seen someone play a little bit of, if you've seen someone play like a little bit of Europa Universalis, kind of like Civ, but in a more historical context. Victoria 2 covers 1830 to 1930,
Oh wow.
On a national scale, and it's all about like industrialization. So you're conquering areas of countries to get resources to build a, like, you know, you need your coal to get your factories going, and then you get your cement industry going, and the further you progress, your industry becomes like you're not producing cement anymore. You're buying that from a poor country and you're using it to make a more complex derived good,
yeah,
right?
I don't have time. I'm not setting up making my own cement.
Yeah, exactly. Or I'm getting the machine parts and I'm building the car. You know?
Oh, I love this area of your town, by the way.
Oh yeah, I wanted to show you this. This is a really cool modded station. I can't remember who made this. Who made this? Is it Matt 2B? No, it's Simmer 2 again. The sunken station, sunken train line. So this actually operates as a pedestrian crossing, and then you've got this kind of rail trench here that comes out and then gradually rejoins the city there.
That's awesome. Yeah, that looks really good.
These little bridges too are part of one of the new add-ons. The network add-on mod, they're still working on it. They've released 3 versions this year. By the way,
wow.
You know, silver lining for COVID is that the modding community has just gone, like, I don't know if you've noticed this, but like, you know, mods that had not received updates in years have gotten like 3 in a month because
and honestly, like, if we were to adopt some sort of universal basic income or something, I think that would be the best thing for video games in the world, because people mod, they're not getting paid.
Yep.
So if they didn't have to go work, they would just make games all day for us to play.
Yeah, exactly. And then all the rest of us who didn't work and can't make games would just play them.
Oh, what kind of life is this? The best life ever?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Well, Rob, like, this has been a blast. Like, I really enjoyed getting back into SimCity 4, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, I didn't really build anything. You were building a city from scratch. I just kind of zoomed around and showed you stuff, but
I kind of needed that, though. I needed this tour.
Yeah, tour of Honestville. Yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic. We should do something again. This has been great.
Okay, sounds fun to me.
But yeah, so for those of you, I guess I should do the outro. So if you guys are just catching this video on my channel, head over to Solid Content. I'll put a link in the description.
Please do.
Yeah, you head over to Solid Content. Those of you who are city builder, total city builder nerds like the two of us, you're going to enjoy content, I think, on both our channels. It's been fantastic just talking about how these games tick while we play them. And yeah, so thanks for watching and see you next time. Ciao.